Okay, then let's start the class. Good evening, everyone. So today we'll continue with materials management. So as I had told you in last class, it is right from getting the material from the supplier, then keeping the material and then using that material for producing the various products of, if you need that those materials for producing certain services, whatever is the requirement that has to be fulfilled, final things have to be distributed to the customers. So the first thing is the selection of suppliers. How you do that? Because selection of supplier is very important, because this is the seed through which you will be producing the quality product or service which the customer requires. So bidding comes in that. Selection of suppliers. The selection process. The selecting suppliers from one's organization can be a daunting task. It's not an easy thing. Because see, this is the place where you are starting. If this is wrong, everything will be wrong. So first thing is you make a short list of all the eligible suppliers. Then gradually what you are looking for, you have to be very careful in what you are looking for, what type of quality, what type of cost, time, schedule, all these things you are looking for. So which supplier will be able to fulfill all these things? So you have to again first eligible suppliers, then from there also you shortlist and find out who are good enough for your organization. So naturally it depends upon how vetting process means, how well you are mapping the qualities which you want with the suppliers. So what are the documents which are required? The request information, the request for information or RFI, request for quotation. Suppose you want to buy screws, just a small example. Then what will be the dimension of the screw? What will be the price of that screw? The request for quotation. How will you select? Which supplier will be giving you the best, the things which you need? First is the request for information, request for quotation, and request for proposal, and what terms and conditions they want, and what terms and conditions. These three documents, while similar in their function, are still quite different. And contribute significantly to supplier qualification process. Here's a detailed guide for each document and how they fit into one supplier qualification. So you have to look at the detail, because see, this is the first initial step you are taking. It is saying anything well begun is half finished. Request for information. So this is a request, the idea, the everything, the written document. Request for information. This is a request for general information on the problem one is faced with. Whatever, suppose you want to, it is very hot and you want to supply something which is nice and cool to your employees. And for that, you need a supplier. I'm not talking always about what you are producing. See, as a production or operations manager, you not only have to produce the things, whatever your organization wants to produce, but also see that your employees are satisfied and are they don't want to leave the organization and go, and whatever is their requirement, that also has to be fulfilled. So this is one problem. Like if the organization is facing, they need something cool so that they can enjoy doing their work. So for what? It can be cold drinks, it can be ice cream, whatever is your problem. This is, I'm just saying, this is not related to the production thing, but it is related to the organization. This is a request for general information on the problem one is faced with. Like I said, suppose you are manufacturing, say, furniture. So what type of wood you require? What is your client? How much they can afford? See, in a furniture also you can get many. Today you have particle board furniture, which are basically they're quite strong, but much cheaper than the actual solid material. So what is your requirement? They should be able to focus on that. What the supplier knows about it, what would be the cause, any applicable solution that supplier can offer. Like suppose sometimes maybe you are looking for wood for your furniture, but you don't have that much of knowledge. The supplier can give you the knowledge. These are the various types of woods available at this particular cost. So which one will be suiting your organization? Which one will be suiting your requirements? The request for information gets the ball rolling on the suppliers can come forward to position themselves to fit it. So request for information, what you can ask them for things which they can supply. They can also give you alternative solutions to your problems. The dialogue starts from the supplier to the buyer. So this is actually it is when the play has started. Awareness level. At this point, one has an idea of one's problems or pain points. One knows quite well these problems are holding one's organizations back. Or from a procurement perspective, one knows the problems one's organization has, but one does not necessarily know what be the best solutions to this problem. Like suppose you are supplying furniture, you know what type of furniture you are supplying, whether you are supplying beds, or you are supplying dining tables, or you are supplying dressing tables, or you are supplying sofa set, whatever is this. But what is your market? What is the market on which you are supplying? Whether you are supplying to the high-end market or the middle-end market or the lower-end market. So naturally, the product which should be manufactured should be according to their purchasing power. Maybe whatever you are giving is very good, but it is beyond their purchasing power, then you will not get back the return on your investment. But you don't exactly know what type of materials are available in the market. So the supplier can give you this information. What all alternatives are there? Then from there the awareness level has to be generated. The awareness has to be given to the buyer. what all are available and what is good for your particular need. So here, with the help of the supplier, you know the problem, but you don't know what is the best solution. With the help of the supplier, you can solve this and you can buy what is the best available in the. That is why you're not going sticking to one supplier. You're getting the bids from several, and then you do a comparative study and talk to several people also who are well aware of the market. I'm talking about this for the, if you're doing it for the first time. Once you also get used to it, you will also have a very fairly good idea about what the market wants, what is the purchasing power of the people, from where to buy the material. Then once, but in the beginning, these things are very important. What should a request for information look like? A request for information should contain components such as a table of content that makes the documents easy to navigate. It should not be very complex. अब उसको देखने में इतना टाइम लग जाएगा तो फिर तुम डिसीजन क्या लोगे? So a table of content that makes the document easy to navigate. An introduction detailing the purpose of the RFI. That is the request for information. What problem the procuring, actually, I'm not very well, sorry, excuse me. What problem the procuring organization has and what they expect in return. They should know for what purpose they want and what are they expecting. Accordingly, they'll make the bid. An explanation of scope that further breaks down the problem the procuring organization is facing and what they expect as to see in potential solutions. So with this negotiation, these things can be broken down and see exactly what the procuring agency or your agency wants. And whatever references or abbreviation are written should be clear, should be explained somewhere. Otherwise, there will be a miscommunication between the supplier and the buyer. Template to complete to guide the suppliers in sending a satisfactory RFI. So there should be a standard template so that the supplier also know how to send this request for information. Excuse me. The buyer says to the supplier to get the information. How does the procuring organization intend to take the supplier selection process further? So the supplier should also be clear what exactly they want. So this is the first part. They are negotiating with each other what the supplier wants, what the buyer wants, what the supplier can give, what are the different alternatives present in the market, what are the prices, what is the quality, what is the cost. All these things can be negotiated over here, so that a very clear-cut information is passed between the buyer and the supplier. So once you have gone through this process with several shortlisted suppliers, then you can pinpoint on someone which will be the best supplier for you. So as I told you, this is the first reach for the procuring organization, that reaching for help and seeking to potentially build a relationship with a vendor or supplier. It is just the same thing. Sometimes it is referred as vendor, sometimes as supplier. Sometimes, in fact, the one who's supplying the raw material are referred as suppliers, and one who is supplying the finished good to the customers are known as vendor. That is also one definition. But here the word generally supplier and vendor are interchangeably used. What is the advantages of the RFI? Is the first contact between the supplier and the procuring agency. So it's just like when you are playing tennis or you first start throw the ball. So once the ball is thrown, then only the game will start. So RFI gets the ball rolling so that the procuring organization can take the first step in getting a supplier suited to their needs, all without addressing the issues of price at first. First, don't jump into the price first. First, you negotiate whether they are able to supply the quality and the things which is needed by your organization. Then further on, once that is settled, then price also can be negotiated. The RFI breaks the ground and forms the basis of further consultations and agreement. So once that has been, the game has started. The game has started between the supplier and the vendor. Supplier and the organization. Then only things will move further. Now, once that is done, the general information has been taken care of. What all is required, what all is available, the different alternatives and everything, then only the request for quotation comes in. In which the price plays a significant role. So here naturally, what will be the cost incurred? How much would it cost? Once you are satisfied, okay, this supplier is able to supply the things which my organization requires, what we require. Then only the terms and condition at what price. Then what is the awareness level? At the point of forwarding a request for quotation, the procuring organization so now they have discussed the problem with the vendor and they are now fully aware what is the problem. And they have got various suppliers who have contacted them, told them what are they. So now they are at a better position to negotiate for the prices. So, because they'll be getting this quotation also, the cost which others are, so they can see whether they want, whatever is their policy. As in the last class only I said, a clear-cut policy has to be developed by the procuring agency. Should they compromise on the quality, or whether only at the lowest cost, or maybe even if at a higher cost but a better quality you're getting, you'll go for it. So that has to be done before taking any excuse me, any decision. So naturally, now that they have negotiated with several suppliers and they know they are fully aware that this is my problem, this what this I want, these things I want, and this will solve my problem. So whatever is the then they can negotiate with the, and whatever from wherever they get the best quality and the best price. Naturally, both are trying to get to move the decision on their behalf. But it is not always that you will be always the winner. Maybe you may have to make certain compromises, because maybe there's someone who's very who's ready to deliver the product on time, but maybe they're charging a slightly extra. It depends. If the organization is ready for that, they can go for it. So here, naturally, here the quotations, they have asked for quotations. They have got the quotation. Then they in the information they have also had what type of material they'll be supplying, at what will be the schedule, everything. The information is clear now, and accordingly a decision can be taken. So what does a request for quotation has? A detailed list of product the procuring organization needs, including the features and functionality they expect to derive from them. The quantity of goods required by the procuring organization, the data on which the quoted items are expected to be delivered, the date on which the quoted items, because schedule is very important. When you're selecting a supplier, even if the supplier is giving you a good quality material at a very reasonable cost, but if they are not very tight about the schedule, naturally this will affect your production process. So you will not be selecting that supplier. Pricing and expected payment terms. Okay, what will be their payment terms? It will be cash on delivery, or it will be on credit, whatever it is. So that also has to be taken care of in your policy decision. And if it suits you, then you go for this particular supplier. A request for quotation is designed to inform the supplier about which exact supplies the procuring organization expects, so that the vendor can offer a breakdown of what it will cost. Maybe there can be so many options. Maybe you don't have to pay for the whole thing in one go. It can be broken up into different parts, and accordingly you can see, and maybe the things are also not required everything at one go. So it can come whenever it is required. As you have said, must have heard this term, just-in-time inventory. Just-in-time, that is whenever you require. अब जैसे मान लो कि आप टेबल ही बना रहे हैं, तो टेबल में क्या है, पहले एक फ्लैट टॉप होता है, then there are 4 legs. A simple table I'm talking about. So you won't require everything together. First, maybe you're producing 100 of tables. So first you will just prepare the top. Then you will prepare the legs. Or maybe first you prepare the legs, whatever is your process. It will depend upon the process which you are following. But then you prepare the top, so you don't need material for the legs at that particular time. Once you have finished preparing all the tops, 100 tops, then you will require the legs. So legs will be supplied to you when you require it. And after the legs have been designed the way you want it to design, then it can be fixed on the top and the table is ready. I'm just talking about a simple table. A simple table. It can be a sophisticated table with a lot of floral design, whatever it is. Variations are always there. But whatever is your design, whatever is your process, you don't require everything on the first day. The things should come to you when you require it. The supplier should be providing you the things when you require it. Because what will happen then, you will not be wasting a lot of time and money on storing those things. So that is also you will be cutting on inventory, storage of material. So naturally it is, what should be the cost? A request for quotation is well structured and outlined to offer a clear picture of what exactly the procuring organization intends to acquire. This way, prospective supplier can offer reasonable cost estimates of what they'll be able to do the work for. So it is well structured. What exactly, so that it will be suiting both the suppliers as well as the buyer. If it is too costly, the buyer will not buy it. If it is very not up to the mark, the quality is not up to the mark, then also buyer will not buy. So it is a business deal which is going on between the buyer and the supplier. So this has to be in a structured manner. What is the advantage? The request for quotation helps the procuring organization get a picture of what the solution they are looking for will cost from a variety of perspectives. So they'll know exactly, because after all, their pricing of the finished good will depend on it. Whatever they have paid for the raw material, the price of the finished good will be affected by it. So now they know exactly how much they should be paying, so that they'll be able to produce the particular good in which the market will be absorbing it. So apart from the information given in the previous slide, there is a wide variety of different things a business can request. Below is a non-exhaustive list of common elements. So this is a non-exhaustive. You can add, you can subtract to this. But typically, these are the things which is also required. Presentation of the applicant company. How, see, initially what happens when the suppliers come, they give their presentation to the procuring company. The way the presentation is done is very important. The same thing. Somebody might say it or present in a manner in which it will impress you and you will easily buy the thing. The same thing somebody else will do in a very sloppy manner. So nobody is interested in that. So the way the presentation is done is also very important. Statement of the reason for RFI. Why you want this request for information. What all you want. Question about the vendor's experience with a similar project. Naturally, if you're going to you would like to know whether that particular vendor has experience in this area or not. Everybody says that a newcomer should also be given a chance. That is good, but then nobody wants his or her business to be affected. Until and unless you have a very deep financial pocket. तो ये रिस्क जल्दी कोई लेना नहीं चाहता है. कहने को तो सब लोग कहते हैं कि भाई फ्रेशर को कौन देगा, फ्रेशर को कौन देगा, पर ये हो जाता कि जिसको लेना है वो सोचेगा भैया मेरा काम गड़बड़ ना हो जाए. तो दोनों की तरफ से रिस्क है ना. तो यू हैव टू बी क्लियर अबाउट दिस. पॉलिसी में भी ये आप क्लियर कर लीजिए कि नहीं, यू डोंट वांट फ्रेशर और यू वांट फ्रेशर. Maybe you want to encourage new people. Maybe you have the financial pocket. You can take that risk. So it depends upon your organization. So you have to know what is the experience that vendor has in this particular area. Questions about the supplier's action plan, financial situation, and technical skills. ये भी you should know. कि supplier का what will is his action plan, how will he be supplying things to you. So it should be clear cut, well written down, documented. ये नहीं कि promise तो कर दिए मगर जब actually delivery का time हुआ तब problems आने लगे. तो that is why experience, finding the experience of the supplier is very essential. कि what was his track record. ये कैसे जानेंगे एक्शन प्लान उनका कैसा रहेगा, what is their execution plan, how they are implementing the things which they have promised, then what is their financial situation, and what are their technical skills. Because today when you are producing, technical skills is very important. Because the quality of the product will depend upon how much technology it has been using. अब जैसे मान लो कि बहुत अच्छा craftsman है, but every time if he is doing the work manually, the dimension of what that product will not be exactly same. Precision उतना अच्छा नहीं होगा. ऐसा नहीं है. Okay, with mass production, with the technology, today we are able to mass produce things with the same precision. जो dimension first stock का है, वही last का भी होगा. So it is the technology which is playing a driving spirit over here. Then clients references. मैंने किस को वो पहले भी सप्लाई किया है, किस एरिया में सप्लाई किया है, that is also very essential. तो ये client references is very important. Selection criteria matrix based on which the requesting company will choose the supplier. Then you will know कि उनका क्या reference है, track record क्या है, then only you will choose the supplier. Some businesses ask providers to solve a case based on a realistic scenario. You can ask them several questions and ask them to solve a case जो realistic है. Give them a problem, ask them to solve them, then evaluate them, then only you choose them as a supplier. Then request for proposal. वो फाइनल हैंडशेक हो गया. पहले इंफॉर्मेशन गैदर कर लिए, सब गैदर कर लिए, क्या उसमें पैसा लगेगा, क्या टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन होंगे. जब सब चीज तय हो गया, देन यू हैव शेकिंग हैंड कि हाँ रिक्वेस्ट फॉर प्रपोजल. So you can request for proposal from various. A request for proposal is a request for the solution that different supplier can offer, so they can be compared based on their merits, demerits, the pain points they intend to solve, etc. कैसे करेंगे? सारे को देखिए, 2-3 सप्लायर्स आपने फाइनली चूज किया. जितने एलिजिबल सप्लायर्स थे सबसे उसको शॉर्टलिस्ट किया. देन यू फाउंड आउट कि फ्रॉम द request for information, request for quotation, request for proposal, then you compare them and then you choose the final supplier. A request for proposal invites suppliers to offer information customer needs. So this is the final handshake. The aim of issuing request for proposal is to determine how well the different solutions offered by different suppliers under consideration can meet the procurer's need to help in making the best choice. Then only you can make the best choice. आपके पास 3-4 suppliers नहीं रहेंगे, तो you will be left with no other option but to choose that person. So that is why this is a painful job, daunting job, but this is a very necessary job because this is the first step, and this only will lead to the quality product, the product which you want to produce or the service which you want to do. What the focus on the procurer's pain points and demanding the supplier to detail how will they'll meet it. तो प्रोक्यूरर का क्या प्रॉब्लम क्या है, क्या बनाना है एग्जैक्टली, उनको किस लिए चाहिए. जैसे हमने शुरू में कहा था कि दे वांटेड समथिंग कूल फॉर देयर एम्प्लॉइज. It is a very hot season and they want. So for that there can be number of options. It can be ice cream, it can be cold drinks. So सबके अपने अपने plus and minus points हैं. You have to see कि what they should understand कि what will exactly solve that problem. So people will be satisfied as well as it will not mess with their working hours. अब ऐसा नहीं है कि आइसक्रीम खाने लगे तो बस उसी में मस्त हो गए. तो ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि कोल्ड ड्रिंक्स ही दो ताकि while they are sipping the cold drinks they can also do their work. So it depends कि to solve the same problem you have number of solutions, but what will be best suiting to your condition, so you choose that. So from the supplier you can ask them कि this is my pain point, so how will you solve it. जो तुम्हें बेस्ट लगे तुम लो. provide information on how the procurer already manages the work, so the supplier can offer a solution suited to what you already have in house. तो हो सकता है अभी तक आप कैसे मैनेज कर रहे थे, the supplier can ask you, so you can tell them अभी तक या तो हमने अभी शुरू ही किया है ये काम करना, तो आई डोंट हैव मच आइडिया, और अभी तक जो हम कर रहे थे उसमें ये प्रॉब्लम्स आ गए, मे बी द फर्नीचर यू वर नॉट टफ इनफ, ड्यूरेबल नहीं था, मे बी द क्वालिटी ऑफ द वुड वाज नॉट अप टू द मार्क, बहुत सारे कंप्लेन आ गए कस्टमर से। तो ये सब प्रॉब्लम्स उनको बताइए और बताइए इसको कैसे सॉल्व करेंगे, किस तरह का, और बहुत महंगा भी नहीं होना चाहिए क्योंकि माय क्लाइंटल डू नॉट हैव वेरी हाई परचेसिंग पावर, उनको टफ ड्यूरेबल सामान चाहिए बट एट अ लोअर कॉस्ट। तो हाउ विल द सप्लायर विल, then they will give you the solution, they'll show you the road. You can ask several suppliers and whichever suits your needs best, you choose from them. Be specific and should only be used at the decision stage where the procurer is ready to finally pick a vendor. So up तक you should come to the decision state. The supplier should also be very particular. We'll be supplying you this at this rate, at this duration, this will be our delivery schedule, all these things. And then only the final decision has to be taken by the procuring agency. So naturally, this is the last thing. So this has to be formal. Informal nahi hai, a formal ekdam. A request for proposal is formal, focused, and offers an air of increased seriousness. The procurer is looking to make a major procurement decision and the supplier is potentially about to acquire a major client. दोनों के लिए it should be formal, because one is making a decision to buy something and another is getting a new client. उसका भी business proposal है, तुम्हारा भी business proposal है. So this has to be a formal on terms and conditions. Advantage: the request for proposal helps the procuring organization narrow down suppliers based on those that can actually meet their needs and can clearly demonstrate how. तो ये एकदम clear cut हो जाना चाहिए कि जो हमारे needs हैं, whether they are going to fulfill that and whether the way it will be delivered will suit my conditions. तो ये तीन हुए ना, RFI, request for information, request for quotation and request for proposal. The purpose of RFI का क्या है? The aim of an request for information is to request general information regarding the procurer's problem and how it can be solved. And what is RFQ? Quotation is designed to demand information about what a solution will cost as per each supplier. A request for proposal solicits for information how a supplier intends to deliver on the job should they be chosen to carry out the task as at hand. जैसे हम तो कैसे उसको करेंगे? What will be the implementation process? Purpose तो ये हुआ, तीनों का अलग अलग है. One, you are just getting an information. Second is at what price, and then how it will be delivered. There's a naturally RFI is more general. RFQ is more in depth, and RFP is absolutely formal. RF is more formal and serious, demanding actionable information from suppliers. Exactly कि कैसे करेंगे ये काम, वो कैसे करेंगे, किस तरह से डिलीवर करेंगे, क्या उनका डिलीवरी शेड्यूल होगा, क्योंकि अब वो सामान आपके ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में आएगा और आपका प्रोडक्शन स्टार्ट होगा उस पर. यदि उनका किसी भी तरह का डिले हुआ, किसी तरह से क्वालिटी में कुछ प्रॉब्लम हुआ, then your whole production output will be affected. Advantage: the RFI is the first touch point for building a relationship between the procurer and the potential suppliers. That we have also discussed. ये first point है जब दोनों साथ आते हैं. The RFQ creates an avenue for the procurer to get a better picture of what the solution they are seeking will cost. Naturally, भाई हमें चाहिए और वो मिल रहा है, मगर whether I can afford it or not, so I have to go to some other supplier which will be giving the same thing but at a lesser cost, whatever it is. So ये second step हो गया. RFP makes it easy to see how a potential vendor will do the work. तो RFI is it educates, वो आपको educate करता है कि ये आपका प्रॉब्लम है, इसको इस तरह से सॉल्व किया जा सकता है. This quantifies. Proposal compares. जब आपके पास 2-4 suppliers से आ गए तो आप you can compare and see which is the best for you, and then naturally over here this hand is shown कि you shake hand and you start the work. So in conclusion, we can say while the RFI, RFQ and RFP are different in their specific function, they are all targeted at one main goal, which is to assist the vendor selection process. These 3 request documents help the procuring organization examine prospective suppliers to determine which supplier understands their needs, which supplier matches their needs with an ideal solution, that is, which of the suppliers who offers the best solution to the problems at hand, and also the most cost-effective option to proceed with. So ये 3 चीज हुआ ना, who understands their needs, at what cost, and how it will be delivered. If all these things satisfied you, then you put all these things together and it is crystal clear that a combination of RFI, RFQ and RFP combined simplifies the vendor selection process and helps the procuring organization build a long-term relationship with the vendor that's perfect for their needs. एक बार आप ये initial process कर लें, then you can make a long-term relationship. Okay, now we are not just talking about operations. It is supply chain management. So there has to have a very good relationship among all the partners, right from the time you are procuring the raw material to where it is going to be produced, to the place it is going to be stored, from there to the customers. तो ये सारा चीज एक साथ मिलके काम नहीं करेंगे तो फाइनल रिजल्ट विल नॉट बी अटेन्ड. तो इसलिए शॉर्ट टर्म के लिए नहीं, वी आर गोइंग फॉर लॉन्ग टर्म रिलेशनशिप. एक कॉर्पोरेट परचेसिंग प्रोसेसेस में क्या है? आइडेंटिफाइंग द बिजनेस नीड्स, डिटरमाइनिंग अ बजट, selecting a purchasing team, defining specification, searching for options, evaluating options, making the purchase and re-evaluating the purchase. One go में तो नहीं होगा. क्या? What do you want to make? If you suppose you want to make furniture, okay, so this is your need to make that furniture, whatever raw material, whatever skill, manpower, whatever you require. Then what is your budget? Because whatever you are going to buy will depend upon your budget. What type of quality you can afford within that budget. Then naturally there has to be a purchasing team which will see to it you get the best thing in the proposed budget, within the proposed budget. What specification you want, searching for options. There can be more than one suppliers. One is offering something, another is offering something. You can evaluate those options and then come to the whatever is satisfied you the best. You choose that. And it is not that once you have done the purchasing, you don't re-evaluate it. Even then, there has to be this clause if something goes wrong. So it can be again renegotiated. If something goes, you were not expecting this and something has happened from the supplier side. So that can be renegotiated and that can be rectified. So this is on how you make the purchasing decision. Next, we'll be talking about see what generally for all these, the inventory which you use is ABC analysis. क्योंकि देखिए ऐसा होता है ना, एक पार्ट तो हम परचेज करेंगे नहीं, कोई भी आइटम बना रहे हैं एक, पर एज आई टोल्ड यू सिंपल टेबल ही बनाना है तो आपको लकड़ी भी चाहिए, टूल्स जैसे स्क्रू ड्राइवर्स चाहिए, स्किल्ड मैन पावर चाहिए, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी चाहिए, सो मेनी थिंग्स. तो पार्ट्स भी डिफरेंट डिफरेंट टाइप्स के हैं. तो यू what we do is we classify these parts, the inventory, into 3 groups, A, B and C. So यहाँ एक selective we categorize all the, for example suppose जैसे हम अपने घर के लिए राशन ही खरीदने जा रहे हैं, बहुत तरह का है, ग्रेन्स भी है, घी बटर भी है, so many things. So there are certain, we all are not, consumption pattern भी सबका सेम नहीं है, सबका प्राइस भी सेम नहीं है. तो we categorize into 3 parts, A, B and C. A है जो valuable है but are less in number, B in between है, और C वो है जो valuable नहीं है, प्राइस ज्यादा नहीं है, but it is more in number. For example, if you are buying ration for your house, जैसे बटर है, घी है, ये बहुत ज्यादा क्वांटिटी में ज्यादा नहीं होंगे, वो प्राइस में ज्यादा होंगे कि नहीं. ग्रेन्स है, अब ग्रेन्स क्या है कंपैरेटिवली, आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि एब्सोल्यूट टर्म में नहीं करे, हम तीनों को कंपैरिजन कर रहा है। तो यहाँ क्या होगा कि ये ग्रेन्स जो है सो क्वांटिटी में ज्यादा होंगे मगर प्राइस में कम होंगे, और कुछ मटेरियल इन दोनों के बीच में होंगे। ABC analysis is a method in which inventory is divided into three categories, that is A, B, and C in descending value. The items in A category have the highest value. B category items are of lower value than A, and C category items have the lowest value. जैसे हमने घर के राशन का ही क्या है, बहुत सारे सामान लाएंगे मगर उसमें कुछ ऐसे होंगे जो कंजम्पशन उनका वैल्यू ज्यादा होगा और क्वांटिटी कम होगा, कुछ ऐसे होंगे जो क्वांटिटी ज्यादा होगा और वॉल्यूम क्वांटिटी कम होगा पर वॉल्यूम ज्यादा होगा, और कुछ इन दोनों के बीच में होंगे। इन्वेंट्री कंट्रोल मैनेजमेंट आर क्रिटिकल फॉर अ बिजनेस, क्योंकि इन्वेंट्री को इसलिए कंट्रोल करना है कि हमें कॉस्ट को कम रखना है, वेस्टेज कम करना है, और प्रोडक्शन लाइन भी हमारा रुकना नहीं चाहिए।
मैम आप स्क्रीन शेयर कर रहे हैं मैम?
पार्डन?
आप स्क्रीन शेयर कर रहे हैं मैम? आई एम नॉट एबल टू सी एनी screen here.
You can't see me?
No ma'am, I am able to see the PowerPoint selection of suppliers.
One second, give me a second.
ठीक है मैम।
हो सकता है कि
slide is not there.
Okay, okay.
मैम उधर स्क्रीन शेयर ऑप्शन है ना मैम, so there you can select from.
नहीं, actually I have closed it. Just 1 second, I'm getting it and then I'll share it. Okay?
Okay ma'am, okay.
Now can you see it?
Yes madam.
Huh?
Yes ma'am.
You can see it.
Yeah.
Yes ma'am. Yes.
Now you can see it, na? ABC analysis method of inventory control and management. ABC method of inventory control involves a system that controls inventory and used for materials and is used throughout the distribution of management. It is also known as selective inventory control or SIC, selective inventory control. So here you are categorizing the whole material into 3 groups, A, B, and C. So A is quantity wise it is small, but the value is highest. And C, on the other hand, the quantity is big, but the value is very low. and B is in between A and B, A and C. It is used for anything, whether it is finished good, unfinished good, work in progress good, you can use everything. So here generally this is based on Pareto principle. The Pareto principle states that 80% of the sales volume are generated by top 20% of the items. 20% of the items generates 80% of the sales volume. It means that top 20% of the items will generate 80% of the revenue for the business. जैसे हमने कहा ना, if you take the ration, तो जो कॉस्टली है वो क्वांटिटी में कम है, तो क्वांटिटी वाइज आप देंगे तो 20% है, बट इट इज टेकिंग द कॉस्ट ऑफ 80%. उसी तरह ये मान लीजिए इसको बेचना होगा कहीं, तो 20% वो क्वांटिटी में है, बट द रिटर्न व्हिच दे आर गिविंग इज 80%. This method is significant to identify the top category of inventory items. That is why then you know which are the critical items. You have to be more careful with it. Because they'll be consuming the most of the finances, but then they'll be giving you a lot of return also. So you have to be very careful about those items. Quantity wise, they might be small, but the return which they'll be giving will be much higher, will be the highest in fact. Item A. In the ABC model of inventory control, items categorized under A are goods that register the highest value in terms of annual consumption. It is interesting to note that the top 70 to 80% of the yearly consumption value of the company comes from only about 10 to 20% of the total inventory item. Hence, it is crucial to prioritize these items. For example, suppose somewhere कोई ऑटोमोबाइल कंपनी में आप चले जाइए, अब स्क्रू ड्राइवर है, वो तो बहुत सारे स्क्रू ड्राइवर्स वहां यूज होते होंगे, पर उनकी वैल्यू क्या होती है, तो एक दो खो भी गया तो कोई बात नहीं है. बट थिंग्स, सपोज यू आर यूजिंग सर्टेन समथिंग which is very valuable, maybe quantity wise they are small, but you cannot afford to lose them or to misplace them or to mishandle them. So you have to be more careful with these item A. Whichever things come under item A, you have to be very careful with them. Item B, these items that have a medium consumption value, these amount to about 30% of the total inventory in a company, which accounts for about 15 to 20% of the annual consumption value. And item C is the last. तो वॉल्यूम तो ज्यादा होगा मगर उनका वैल्यू कम होगा. The item placed in this category have the lowest consumption value and amount for less than 5% of the annual consumption value that comes from about 50% of the total inventory items. So suppose if you go to, like for example, at Varanasi, there is one diesel locomotive. It was diesel locomotive works. Now it has become all electrical locomotives. So if you go there, they also follow ABC pattern. तो कुछ parts तो ऐसे होंगे जो very important है. They must be very costly. So they come under category A. So they maximum attention is paid to them. Then there are certain things, tools है, screw है, driver है, nut and bolt है. Nut and bolts भी तो बहुत use होते होंगे. वो तो they must be buying it in a huge quantity also, but they are not all that careful about it. एक आध खो भी गया तो कोई बात नहीं है, misplace हो गया तो कोई बात नहीं है, but something which they are using for their engine, which is costly, and it is maybe per engine they are buying it, so they are more very careful about it, and it should come in time. To inventory of those items, much more attention is given to that item. जो भी parts item A में आते हैं, तो you have to be very very careful about them. And luckily they are low in number, so they can be taken care of. Item C में क्या होता है? It is they are huge in number but less in value. So even if you don't take that much of care, things will move smoothly. Item A, these are subjected to strict inventory control and are given highly secured areas in terms of storage. ये critical items हैं, तो इनका storage भी you have to be very careful. These goods have a better forecast for sales. यहाँ सेल का है, मान लीजिए आप उसको यूज भी कर रहे हैं, जैसे आई टोल्ड यू ऑफ अ इंजन और अ ऑटोमोबाइल, हो सकता है आप सेल कर रहे हो, तब भी क्योंकि इनकी वैल्यू ज्यादा है तो नेचुरली इनका रिटर्न भी ज्यादा आएगा, एंड इट इज फ्यू इन नंबर, तो ये ऑलमोस्ट ऑल ऑफ देम विल बी सोल्ड, तो इनका फोरकास्ट भी ज्यादा सही है. These are also items that require frequent reorders on a daily or weekly basis. तो इनका जब ज्यादा यूज होगा तो naturally you have to order it on a daily basis or a weekly basis. उनको तो एक साथ बहुत थोक आपने नट एंड बोल्ट खरीद लिया, हो गया, सारे इंजन पे यूज होंगे, मगर those items which will be specific to the engine or specific to the automobile, उनको हो सकता है आपको थोड़े थोड़े दिनों पर उनको ऑर्डर करते हो, रीऑर्डर करते होना होगा एंड खरीदते रहना होगा. They are kept as a priority items and efforts are made to avoid unavailability or stock out of these items. So you have to see to it कि unavailability or stock out कम से कम हो, so that the production does not stop. Item B, these items are not as important as item under section A or as trivial as item categorized under C. जैसे मान लीजिए बल्ब्स हुए, ऑटोमोबाइल में जो बल्ब लग रहे हैं, तो they might come under category B, जो वैल्यू में उतने ज्यादा नहीं है जितने ए में थे, वेरी स्पेशलाइज्ड आइटम नहीं थे, बट दे आर आल्सो इम्पोर्टेंट, और उतने भी फालतू नहीं है जो कैटेगरी सी में है. जैसे हमने कहा कैटेगरी सी में नट एंड बोल्ट है, थोड़े बहुत इधर उधर भी होंगे तो कोई खास फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. इट डिपेंड्स अपॉन व्हाट इज द साइज ऑफ योर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. काम चलता रहेगा, your production will not stop. The important thing to note is that since these items lie in between A and C, they are monitored for potential inclusion towards category A or in a contrary toward. अब इसमें भी हो सकता है कुछ कैटेगरी ए की तरफ ज्यादा होंगे, कुछ कैटेगरी सी की तरफ. उनकी वैल्यू क्या, क्योंकि ये तो रेंज है ना, रेंज है, तो कुछ इसमें भी ऐसे आइटम होंगे which will be more costlier and उनका कंजम्पशन भी ज्यादा हो रहा होगा. तो it can be both towards A and also towards C. Item C. These items are manufactured less often and follow the policy of having one of its item on hand, or in some cases they are reordered when a purchase is actually made. Excuse me. ये आप बल्क में खरीद सकते हैं, आपको इंडिविजुअली खरीदने की जरूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि ये इनकी जरूरत पड़ती रहेगी, बट इट इज नॉट वेरी कॉस्टली. लो डिमांड गुड्स भी हो सकते हैं जिनकी डिमांड ज्यादा नहीं है, with a comparatively higher risk of cost in terms of excessive inventory. तो इनको स्टोर करने में भी आपको ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम ना हो. तो you can handle it much more easily than handling excuse me, one second. तो ये जो बल्क में रिक्वायर होता है और कॉस्टली भी नहीं है, यू कैन बाय, जरूरी नहीं है कि रीऑर्डर करना पड़े, यू कैन बाय इट इन बल्क एंड कीप इट एट सम प्लेस व्हिच डज नॉट रिक्वायर दैट मच ऑफ हैंडलिंग. So this is how any organization, whether they are dealing with their finished good or work in progress good or unfinished goods, raw material, they are categorized under A, B, and C according to their value and according to the quantity which is required. Generally in A, the quantity might be low, but the price will be high. In middle, it is in between. And C, the price will be very low, but the quantity will be high. So in this method, naturally, you can now focus on those items which are costlier because a lot of capital has been invested, but they are smaller in number. बहुत ज्यादा देखने आपको उसको ध्यान देने में आसानी पड़ेगी ना. आपने यदि कैटेगराइज कर दिया, सबको एक साथ रख दिया, तब तो बहुत मुश्किल होगा. लेकिन लास्ट टाइम आल्सो आई हैड सेड यू हैव टू कैटेगराइज द मटेरियल, कहाँ रखा है, कब उसकी जरूरत पड़ेगी. तो यहाँ जो मटेरियल्स हैं जो ए कैटेगरी में है, उनको यू हैव टू कीप अ स्ट्रिक्ट विजिल ऑन दैट. एक तो दे आर वेरी कॉस्टली, देन देयर इफ दे आर नॉट there on time, the whole production line will be affected. It provides a method to the madness of keeping track of all the inventory. अब एक साथ सबको रख दो, सबको एक तरह से देखने लगो तो you'll go mad. तो इससे अच्छा है कि you categorize them. Categorize the material in A, B, and C. And accordingly, you look after those material. Naturally, घर में आप सोना चांदी लाएंगे, तो that is costlier, but it is smaller in number. Quantity में कम है, but cost में बहुत ज्यादा है. तो you will be looking more, you will be looking more after them than other items of your house. वो जो आपके घर का inventory है. आपके घर में भी तो इन्वेंट्री है ना, सब तरह के चीज सामान है, सबको सेम प्रायोरिटी तो नहीं मिल रही है. Over there also, we don't think of in those lines, but we have also categorized our the things which we have, the inventory which we have at home in these three categories: A, B, and C. Maybe in A is all the gold which we have at home. B can be the furnitures and the utensils which we have. Maybe the grain will come in the lowest thing, even though it is very essential. You cannot you can survive without the gold, but you cannot survive without the grain. But value-wise, it is much cheaper. And availability of this is you can get it whenever you want. So accordingly, you look at these materials. Over here also inventory which you have for producing something. You might require so many types of things to produce a car, to produce an engine, to produce a furniture. So it will depend which is costlier, which has to be looked after much more than those which are cheaper in cost. The ABC method makes sure that the stock turnover ratio is maintained at a comparatively high level through a systematic control of inventory. तो टर्नओवर ऐसा ना हो कि फिर तुम्हारा प्रोडक्शन लाइन स्टॉप नहीं होना चाहिए. तो अकॉर्डिंग टू द कॉस्ट ऑफ द and the requirement of the inventory, you have to keep a track of these things. Storage expenses is also cut. अब सब सारे के सारे को आप क्यों लॉकर में रखेंगे? अब बस अपने गोल्ड को ही लॉकर में रखेंगे ना, गोल्ड को लॉकर में रखेंगे. ये थोड़ी है कि आप अपने यूटेंसिल्स को भी लॉकर में रख देंगे और ग्रेस को भी लॉकर में रख देंगे, नहीं रखेंगे. तो इससे क्या होता है कि इवन इन अ कंपनी इफ यू प्रायोरिटाइज योर इन्वेंट्री को जिस तरह से कैटेगराइज कर देंगे, तो यू विल keep the expensive one in a much more safer place, in a much better way than the other things. The storage expenses भी cut down हो जाता है. There is a provision to have enough C category stocks to be maintained without compromising on the more important item. और C वाला तो भाई they are cheaper, तो they can be maintained. जब भी जरूरत पड़ेगा आप उसको ले सकते हैं. तो इसीलिए स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन का आपको कैटेगराइज करना है ना, तो स्टैंडर्ड बनाना होगा ना, किस चीज को हम ए में रखेंगे, किसको बी में रखेंगे, किसको सी में रखेंगे. तो कोडिंग होना चाहिए. आप मॉनेटरी वैल्यू पर है तो मॉनेटरी वैल्यू पर कीजिए. तो मगर दिस डिस्टिंक्शन इज वाइटल फॉर इन्वेंटरी कंट्रोल. दिस डिस्टिंक्शन इज वाइटल. आपको ये करना ही होगा, कैटेगराइज करना ही होगा. You have to. There are other ways also of categorizing. There's a vital, desirable से भी हम लोग करते हैं, but this is one way of doing it. ABC according to the value of the material. जैसे हमने कहा ना कि when we this is also part of your syllabus, supplier certification. Do you have any question about ABC?
नहीं मैम.
Huh?
No मैम.
No, ma'am.
तो once you have, जैसे हमने कहा ना कि सप्लायर को आपने सेलेक्ट किया थ्रू रिक्वेस्ट फॉर इंफॉर्मेशन, रिक्वेस्ट फॉर कोटेशन, देन रिक्वेस्ट फॉर प्रपोजल. ये जो फाइनल हुआ वो हुआ. देन यू कैन गिव देम अ सर्टिफिकेशन. उनके एक्चुअली व्हेन you are getting all this, you know, क्वालिटी क्या क्या फैक्टर्स. ये नहीं है कि this is the exhaustive list. You can add to it and subtract from it also. But yeah, generally these are the basic things which are being looked out in any supplier: quality, delivery, cost, and technology. Environmental standards, that is also very essential. Whether they are being following the environmental standards or not. जैसे आजकल if you are going to buy kaleen, they also see it is not being, the work is not the work of a child. Child labor is not used. Or they have not, in some industry, it is also seen that environmental degradation has not resulted in environmental degradation. If it results in whether they have done anything to compensate for it. There's for example, if you go to northern coal fields, so they have to, because they degrade the environment, but they also work for it. Whatever, they should compensate for it. At least officially they should compensate for it. So environmental standards have to be maintained. तो आपको अपने suppliers में ये भी देखना है कि वो जो supply कर रहा है तो they are not degrading the environment, and if they are degrading it, whether they are compensating it for it or not. Then what is the financial status of your suppliers? कम्युनिकेशन कैपेबिलिटीज क्या है? जैसे हमने कहा कि प्रेजेंटेशन आप अच्छे से दीजिए, देखिए आपका सिलेक्शन हो जाएगा. कहीं भी होता है, आप इंटरव्यू देने जाइए, आप पढ़ाने जाइए, जो ज्यादा अच्छा कम्युनिकेटर है, that he or she makes a better impression. Then what is the business practices, processes क्या है उनके? This you can find out from their back records. And these important factors have to be considered before you can give a certification to the supplier. You can give your own certification, or they can get a certification through ISO 9000, which is an international standard organization, or industry equivalent like ISO 14000. कहीं से भी. So this gives a much more depth to your choice. उनको आप एक सर्टिफिकेशन दे देंगे तो ये होगा कि your relationship with your supplier will be much more lasting. But ये भी नहीं है कि आज this has to be keep on being evaluated. ऐसा नहीं है कि आज आपने सर्टिफिकेट दे दिया और कल से फिर वो खराब काम करने लगे. You have to be at vision. ये नहीं कि एक बार दे दिया सर्टिफिकेशन हो गया तो बस हो गया, खत्म. ISO 9000 इस पर सबसे ज्यादा जोर देती है. You have to keep on proving yourself. You are up to the mark. तो सप्लायर के साथ भी ये नहीं है कि एक बार हो गया सर्टिफिकेशन मिल गया तो उसको it is for infinity. It has to be re-evaluated and should be kept on checking so that the supplier is up to the mark, and then only he has a good relationship with the buyer. Any questions? I'll send this with the PPTs to you.
Sure.
वो दोनों मिल गया?
No, ma'am.
Last
Thank you, ma'am.
By the way,
Yes, ma'am.
I'll be taking your class because Mr. Sukumar is busy with something. He has to go.
Okay.
So tomorrow I'll be doing project management.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So tomorrow will you come at 6 or 6:30?
6:30, ma'am.
6:30. Okay.
6:30.
So no more questions.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Good night.
Okay. Good night, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Yeah.